Welcome back to the Krown Crypto channel, issuing a very critical warning for the Bitcoin bulos out there, and more importantly, the altcoin bulos as well. Apologies for the clickbait introduction and also clickbait, or very likely clickbait title. I haven't really decided on that one just yet, but having a bit of fun, and there is actually very actionable things going on right now that we are covering over the last 48 hours that are now coming to fruition. So, with all of that in mind, it is going to be mediated with the geopolitical situation going on. Well, I'm not like some sort of a war expert, nor do I think most people on crypto Twitter are, but I suspect that it's going to have something to play within this next leg that we do see within this market going on right here. Anyways, with that in mind, I would like to wish you the best and the happiest as we do get underway on this nice Saturday, as we do have the new weekly closure for CME, which is going to help us start to edge into the next week to come. I need to make sure that my computer is charging. It is, and we are recording as well. This is excellent. This is a very good start, and let's get into it right now. I won't start off with the Krown trading application today because it is going to be relevant in the later portion of this analysis. However, I will let you know that the premium features for the app are now live, and you can find all of the information that you'd ever want in your life and more in the Learn More tab on the left-hand side over here. Next week, when I'm back at my regular battle station, I will record a full-on video for this, explaining all the details and whatnot, everything that you might be interested in knowing. But before that, let's get right down into the lower term timeframes, which we left off yesterday. So we did confirm the hidden bearish divergence on daily on CME right here, which is rather important because that was one of the key critical components alongside our daily stochastic momentum reads as well, suggesting that, hey, short term, medium term, very likely to come down here after filling our targets up to the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement. In this case, I'm talking about this tick right here, which is about 45,300 or so, and that was a target that we had coming in from about almost, what is this, like two and a half weeks ago when Bitcoin was back down around here off of the breakout. So, pulling back within a region like this is like not a death sentence by any stretch of the imagination. Ultimately, it is very, 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 very likely, but what happens after this next segment is incredibly important as to what Bitcoin could potentially do just around $40,000. So with that in mind, on the short-term timeframes right here, yes, we do see Bitcoin, initiating that pullback. It's almost hit our targets to the downside, or at least our first target to the downside, based off of that hidden bearish divergence call plus range break plus over here we do see daily stochastic momentum now pointed down for the first time, coming in from the same area since basically like October, mid-October run in this case. Anyways, going back into this chart right here, Bitcoin getting down to about 41,764.5 on Bybit, as you can see, very, very close to that 41,500-ish or so target, and getting its first etchings of a bit of a short-term bounce-ola right here, or is it? It's actually quite difficult to decipher this on the short-term timeframes. And the LARP lines, they strike again. It's getting weird. It's getting very weird. Maybe I should just, let's try something right here. All right, LARP lines, do your magic, okay? Boom. Wait, no, we can do better than that. Jesus Christ. Don't you have an imagination, Krown? Boom! Nice. All right. I'm rich again, and all the way up to 111,000. Congratulations, everyone. You made it through the Bitcoin bear market. Just kidding. By the way, if this is a bear market to you, well, I got news for you, sirs and sirs. 2018, very, very nasty, and that certainly can happen again, although I'm not necessarily on that side of the schedule just yet. Here's the thing, though. We have a big geopolitical situation coming on now, and I want to kind of fit this into the analysis, not because I'm a, war analyst, nor do I think really too many people can do that well, although I do know a few people in the Discord. Kurosh is one of them. He's great. But here is my experience with sort of extreme situations just in general. Typically what happens, and let's say, there was like an actual breakout of some sort of violence, I guess, like a tangible incitement of violence over there in the Eastern Hemisphere. Well, you're probably going to see an initial reaction in this case with a volatile dump to the downside. And then perhaps after that, do we get a response similar to the Rona situation in 2020? Or do we get the doomsday scenario with Bitcoin coming down to some St. Anna targets down in the $15,000 region? I have no opinion on that. I'm just only going to be going off of ranges in this case. But ultimately, I would like to put some very tangible pieces on price action right now that can essentially mediate the biases and probably correlates with some of those news pieces pieces get thrown out there. Anyways, the first and biggest one is going to be $40,000 on a daily closure. Anything below there on a daily closure, I am looking for Bitcoin to retrace the majority of this run. That's at the point where I'd say that this is going to be a failed run right here, essentially a bull trap, and very likely come back down to the mid $30,000 territories. Of course, there's going to be bounces along the way, but ultimately I would be looking for a full-on move back onto the bottom side of the macro ranges between about $29,500 to $31,000 for, essentially the last year or so. Of course, I'd be looking for a big bounce around there and then, come back to it after that. Again, that's well and far away. I'm actually not really looking for that to happen, but that would be my criteria for that being, I guess, the main sort of bias of what I'd be looking for. By the way, we don't need this no more because it's not been relevant for like a week or two, or sorry, like a week now. But more importantly right here, whilst Bitcoin does come down to our targets yesterday, I was saying somewhere between about 41,000 to 41,500. I think I was wrong on that. I do think that Bitcoin can come all the way down to about 40,000 even and still maintain its overall composure. So over the weekend, weird things do happen. It's a great time to kind of wash out a lot of the unprotected positions. And in this case, if we did see a move down around there, that would make things a lot more easy, actually, personally speaking. Keep in mind, we do have a gap on CME, not from this past Friday, but from the Friday before that, right around here at that low $40,000 region. It's actually right around about 40,500. There's a slight premium on CME over spot price action, I do believe, although because it's not trading right now, I actually don't know, but I'd imagine that we probably saw a little bit of contango coming into the last week and a half there off that move. Anyways, for right now, however, yeah, I do think that this move very likely does come a little bit further south, whether it's 41,000 even or 40 to 40,500-ish region. I don't really have a strong opinion on that. In this case, I just defer to momentum oscillators and be looking for the medium time frames and in the daily specifically to kind of like judge these the severity of these pullbacks. So in this case, daily, obviously, nosediving right here below about 45,250 is rather significant, because that is around that is actually a little bit higher than the range resolution that we do have for a 4-hour closure. Nothing less, because an hourly was a bit of a fake out the other day. It was also kind of event driven as well, but fair enough. At $45,000 here. So as long as Bitcoin's below there, there is no threat of any sort of a major upside move. And when I say major upside move, I mean, big targets up somewhere around $49,000 to maybe even $50,000 plus. And then over time, I mean, from there, probably moving onwards and upwards. But ultimately, do I still think that this general LARP line could play out where we do see this pullback from the 0.5, which is kind of what we're getting right now, comes down in basis somewhere around maybe $41,000 or $40,000, and then bounces there, and then we get the real test somewhere in this region right here. Yeah, I do think that that's still very much relevant to be looking at. But for right now, very, very short-term timeframes, again, still looking for a bit more downside. Yeah, I think at the beginning of the stream I said potentially a little bit of a bounce short-term. I mean, it's not really looking a whole hell of a lot like that right now. So we've got the invalidation. We've already got the validation. So the invalidation condition for general upside on a range breakout, range resolution $45,000, 4-hour closure, nothing less. To the downside, I get quite bearish for looking for a retest around the lows, let's say, with bounce along the way, of course, with any sort of a daily closure below $40,000. Until then, short-term downside, but I'd be looking at that $40,000 pivot as a major bias region. Anyways, let's go through our stochastic momentum and see what let's just see what we're looking at. 12-hour is nosediving alongside the daily, not great. 6-hour is nosediving as well, but it's getting quite low there. Not that that means much at all until it actually turns up, but naturally the lower that it gets, the easier it is to turn up. And we do see that the magical number to turn it back up is 42,414. 4-hour time frame is kind of in the same posturing as the 6-hour, even a little bit higher than there too, which is not the best sign at 42,750. 3 hours going to be showing what is going to be showing down as well below 42,800, so building above and above and above. By hourly showing 42,100, so a little bit lower than that, and hourly is still down, but all of them are in the critical zone. So here's the thing: while Bitcoin might have one more just washout move to the downside, very likely does sit in for a base. Maybe we even already kind of saw that 41,500 tick. If that doesn't hold up, then I'm looking somewhere right around here essentially. And at that point, especially the medium and lower term time frame, stochastic momentum is going to be crushed essentially. So very likely to initiate at least a pity bounce around that region, if not potentially a reversal. At that point, I'd be looking for something resembling hidden bullish divergence on, let's say, a 12-hour or especially a daily. Because remember, we actually don't have a higher low on this just yet. or I mean, we do have a higher low on this, but we don't have a higher low ever since about $37,000. So in this case, all right, unless you kind of consider this at $41,000, either which way, setting in a higher low somewhere within that, just anywhere above $40,000, that would look actually rather good. So until that happens, I do think that Bitcoin is essentially poised for a bit more downside continuation. We are 9.5 minutes into this video right now. I'm gonna not talk about the 3-day signals over here. We've gone over that enough, and it's not too relevant right now, but that is one of the reasons why I still do kind of get the edge to the Bulas over a long enough time frame here. But that can still take a month and a half to play out. What I do want to talk about is in reference probably to the title of today's video. Got a little bit of clickbait going on, when in Dubai, do as the Dubai boys do. And critical warning to the altcoin hodlers. Now, I don't want to include all altcoins into this equation because I do think that we are going to see bifurcation within this market, or not bifurcation, but we're going to see fornication within this market where the market essentially fornicates out and there are a bunch of different sectors, and there's going to be some very, very successful sectors and some very unsuccessful sectors. And I do think that we are moving into the time where this space is starting to get legitimized. We're seeing countries starting to recognize it. So not just El Salvador now, but like Russia, which is kind of a big deal. I mean, regardless of your thoughts of Russia, I mean, just that as like a straight up statement, kind of a big deal. They're kind of a big country, and so I do think that the general days of shitcoins having these astronomical biblical rallies alongside Bitcoin and just a general strong broad market are kind of numbered, and I think we're generally going to see the quality start to separate themselves from here on out. I think I put out a video on this about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago on Elio's channel. This would be kind of my version for this channel, so a little bit more diabolical. Yeah, shitcoins are fucked. Can't say it on that channel, but on this channel, oh yeah, man, shitcoins are fucked. But again, the sectors, which is probably gonna be like DeFi and a few other ones that are like legitimized, right? They're probably going to do incredibly well. So this is not a blanket statement that everything's going to, go just like straight to the downside. But look, if you see a chart like this, for example, where's my favorite one to pick on? Oh, people fucking hate it when I pick on this one, but let's do it. When you see a chart like this that goes down and to the right for eternity, that, without my beautiful soundboard today, is a shitcoin chart, regardless of what the ticker is at the top left-hand corner over here, of which I don't even dare mention this one because I know that I'm going to get a very long-winded email telling me about the merits of this very highly esteemed amazing, highly esteemed, very technologically advanced Litecoin project. Charlie Lee even loves it so much that he sold it. It's great. And look, at some point it might have another pump and dump. I mean, it's been pumping and dumping for like the last, 8 years, since 2014. You can definitely have another pump and dump again, but the problem is that those pumps never get sustained versus the Bitcoin parent. So when you see a chart like this that generally goes down and to the right, that is one of the ones that I think will, probably not fit the bill. Compare that with something like this, which is still a downside chart in the short term, Ethereum Bitcoin, but long term, you do see periods of accumulation. You do see general higher lows over a long period of time. If we look at the chart like this, I think it's a lot more obvious, right? Or even just putting it on a line chart as well. It generally goes up and to the right and does hold macro higher lows, which is very important, obviously. Anyways, to just kind of put this into the Bitcoin dominant chart, which is really not the best way to be looking at this, but it gets the general point across. What do we have? We have 1, 2, 3 drives of bullish divergence come off the lows. On monthly, I think we also have 1, 2, 3 drives as well. We do have a bullish engulfing for last month. That was January that we did identify, and we did see extremes on the low for BBWP, and we've also lost the moving average on it. So that does suggest that we're very likely going to look like at least a mean reversion play here, which in my opinion probably comes up to the low 50% region, to be quite honest with you. Personally speaking, I do think over a long enough period of time we're going to see this move up into the deep 50s, but again, that's not a death sentence for all altcoins. It's probably going to just wreck like the most of them, but not all of them. And there's going to be very successful sectors, and I'm sure, and the ones that do stick around, they're probably going to be incredibly highly touted. But so I do want to separate these two. I do understand that there's a difference here, but basically, I am phenomenally bullish on this chart as long as you're seeing Bitcoin dominance reads above about 41.5 to 41.25 or so. And I am looking for this next move to bring this one up somewhere probably around about 45, maybe 46 region. Very likely a pullback there, and then longer term probably does break out from that region. I know that people are going to call this ascending triangle. Yeah, you're technically right. It does have the etchings of that, but you are also on macro support, and that's just, it's just my opinion. You know, how will you know if I'm going to be wrong about this? Well, I'm always wrong about everything. No, well, maybe in some cases, but in this case, I would certainly be wrong about this if you do see another move below about what is this, 40% on this chart. By the way, I wanted to swing back here, just kind of end this video out on the global open interest to put this into context of Bitcoin price action. I should have done this a little bit earlier, but basically, I do think that there is a bit of an interesting relationship right here with the open interest. If we do see open interest come back down to the late January lows, I actually would be looking at that as a good signal for at least a short-term bounce on the daily. Maybe if you are, if you are long-term bullish, and again, I do think that there are a few reasons to be looking at the 3-day chart, for example. There are a few interesting setups there, of course, as always with their invalidations below about $40,000. Perhaps that is like the turnaround, but ultimately, I do look for this move to come back down and wash out the late longers essentially, and kind of reset the market yet again after we get to neutral sentiment reads, which I think is a little bit more easy to read over here. In fact, this has actually been a really, really good way to do things. Once you do spend a lot of time within the fearful zone, as we did for about 2.5 months to 3 months right here, similar to the summer, that first move up into the neutral zone where you do see it hit the 50 read, you typically do see a correction actually, both on sentiment and price action. So in here, that was your, I think like 42 to 39, or sorry, $44 to $39,000 move over the summer. Over here, that was your first leg up after the $40,000 low, and then we potentially are doing the same thing over here as well. So I thought that was rather interesting and and rather relevant. Anyways, I want to keep this video on the shorter side. So with that said, I want to wish you well, take care, and see you hopefully very soon.